time to strap in and get ready.
The leaders in NRL Supercoach are incoming. Bringing you the ultimate insight to help you win your leagues and climb up the rankings.
You're now listening to the Insight NRL Show with your hosts, Brain, Metrics, and Whisperer.
Yes, g'day guys, and welcome back to the Insight NRL Show. Supercoach Brain on deck to answer all of the Insight Unlimited member questions for a very big week ahead, round 13, the first major buy. And we've got some great questions in here that aren't only going to help our Insight Unlimited members, it's going to help you guys out there that are watching this, whether you're a member or not. So first of all, obviously the show, it's brought to you by Insight Unlimited. And if you'd like to become an Insight Unlimited member, you can do that. It's never too late. It only costs you $20 and you get full access to all of our sports at Insight Fantasy Sports, all of our expert tips, all of our stats, our spreadsheets, our data, all the numbers are crunched for you, all of the advice, all of the trades coming your way every single week. And obviously you get the chance to ask your questions that are answered on this podcast as well. So to become an Insight Unlimited member, $20, hop in my DMs. I'll lead you in the right direction. I'll hop in the Discord and you'll see everything you need to see in there. Now, of course, we're here to answer these questions and we will jump straight into doing those. So the first one here from Agent Cheese: with Trindle cleared and back in the team, does this mean Nico is more of a sell than Gus, Angus Crichton? I still don't think so. I think, yes, with Trindle back, it's going to affect Nico. And I've been very open and I guess maybe transparent about the fact that I think that Nico's definitely going to score less with Trindle in the team. And there's a decent enough sample size there for us to get a gauge on whether that's going to happen or not. Trindle being back, though, yeah, look, I don't know whether it makes him more of a sell this week than Angus Crichton, considering Gus is only going to play one game in the next month with Origin. He'll miss 13, he'll miss 14 with the Roosters bye, then he'll miss 16 as well. And then obviously, there's question marks around whether he backs up in 17, depending on how big of a game he has. So the thing with Nico, and the reason why I'm holding Nico this week is because I just want a little bit more information around what's going on with his calf. I want a bit more info, and also we'll get a gauge on whether he might be a hold next week if New South Wales lose in game one. I said this on the podcast the other night. If they lose in game one, God, Nico could easily be out of this team. He could be the scapegoat as the halfback. Mitchell Moses was clearly the number one choice for Madge. And they were trying everything that they could to get him ready to go for this game, but obviously he wasn't cleared in time. So with Moses being named this week, if he has 3 good games leading into Origin 2, Nico has a stinker in Origin. We might have Nico available for that round 19 bye if he gets booted out of the team, which, look, who knows? Hopefully for Nico's sake and for New South Wales supporters' sake, he doesn't. But look, there's every chance that this could potentially happen, unfortunately, considering he wasn't the number one pick. So for me, I am holding Nico this week, and I'll reassess next week when I have a bit more info. If we find out that Nico's going to be a little more managed through that period, if New South Wales win game one on Wednesday night, and we see that Nico had an absolute blinder and there's just no way that they're going to replace him, maybe then Nico becomes a trade next week. But people trading Nico this week without all the information, I think could blow up in their face if things don't go the way that obviously we plan them to go. So I still think Gus Crichton is the sell over Nico if you had to choose between the two this week. Cracker 90, is it crazy to sell both Nico and Gus, considering both are playing Origin and have massive break-evens? Now, obviously, Nico with the 190 break-even. I haven't seen Gus's. I'll quickly get it up. But, look, you only lose money when you sell. So I think if you don't plan on selling, you don't really necessarily need to worry about break-evens, especially at this time of the year. They're both keepers. I know that the tactical move is to move on Gus, and that's what I'll be doing this week. And look, it makes sense to probably trade both if we get news next week. Is it crazy to sell both? No, I don't think so. I don't think it's crazy to sell both, considering they could both be very well managed through that period. We know that the Origin arena is a very high workload place. So we do see Origin players often rested after games or playing half a game, or, if a Sharks come out and put a score on a team, could he be just kept off at halftime to be managed through the Origin period? There's every chance he could be. So you could make a lot of cash here by going, even Gus to Fafita next week could be huge. Nico to Jerome Hughes next week could be huge. But for me, I'm just looking at options this week, and Gus to Fafita seems the most obvious option to get a primo for a primo. And Nico to Jerome Hughes probably seems like the best option as well to get that same kind of quality player. So, no, it's not crazy to sell both. I just don't know whether this week is the right timing. If you've got 13 to 14 players already, do you really need to go and sell these guys, or can you just wait a week and then make a better decision next week with your team? That's probably the direction I'm going with that one. Shorty, is round 13 too early for an NPR? NPR, for anybody who doesn't know, is a non-playing reserve. So enough, maybe, if you've heard that saying before. We're looking at Karapani here, specifically the young Broncos centre who's been fantastic up until this point. Shorty doesn't care if he doesn't play Origin. Extra number in 19 is very handy when the Broncos do have that availability on that last major bye. Is it too early for an NPR? Look, personally for me, the way I play the game, I think it is. During Origin is usually where it's the biggest opportunity for you. If you plan well and you have max availability of all of your players through that period, you can definitely make a lot of ground up in the overall rankings. I think from every single year, I always come into the bye period around that maybe 10, 15K mark. I'm not a fast starter, never have been. But when I come out of the buys, I'm always in the hunt for the top 1K. So, and that's just the way I play the game. It just depends where you're sitting at the moment. And I think if you're in the top 1K already and you're sitting pretty good, you might want to play a little bit more conservatively and try and hold ranking and then make your move for the run home. But yeah, I still think it's a bit too early for an NPR, personally. I don't know whether I'm a fan of Karapani purely off the back of the fact that Selwyn Cobbo's been picked in Origin, but he's playing off the bench. So if he does end up playing off the bench and they don't bring him into this team or he doesn't drop out, there's every chance he won't even see the field for Queensland. And if he does, it won't be for long. So there's no backup risk there for me for Selwyn Cobbo, which means he'll come back into this team. It'll be Cobbo and Staggs in the centres. Karapani misses out in that round 14. He will play round 19 if Cobbo's in Origin, but there's every chance he might not be. Billy Slater's shown his hand here and named him on the bench, which means that he's preferring, a couple of other guys in those centre positions and even on the wing. So, yeah, interesting from Billy Slater, but maybe we won't see much of Karapani, which kind of sucks. So, I'd probably steer clear of him. All right, we've got Jacob Gagy. Now, BJ Austin wants to know, is Jacob Gagy to Jack Cole, via Ethan Strange a good shout? Hammy concerning for Cole, however, a few good matchups. Look, for me, obviously with Luai playing Origin, Panthers are only available for the first major bye in round 13. So there's every chance now with Brad Schneider back in this team, obviously until Cleary is healthy, that Jack Cole will drop out. Which is unfortunate for him because he's been playing well. But for me, I think Jack Cole does drop out of this team from round 14. And it is unfortunate. But if you're looking for a number this week, that's all well and good. But I just don't know whether I'd be going to Jack Cole. Brad Schneider will definitely be the halfback / 5'8", wherever they play him. And Luai will be playing all of the games he's available for, and I can't see him not backing up. So, yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Cole move. I'd probably be looking elsewhere. If you've got a little bit more cash, I know you're probably looking for a cheapie, but Schneider is way safer and has kicked goals in Cup as well as Paul Alamotti. So it'll be interesting to see who kicks goals for the Panthers. One, when Edwards is out, and two, if Edwards even keeps the goal kicking moving forward, because we've seen Schneider and Alamotti kick goals at New South Wales Cup level. So, yeah, one to watch. Pitbull, is Armstrong a must? I'm worried about his cash gen stalling when he plays Melbourne and Penrith after this week. Likely unplayable in those two matchups and could top out around 500K. Look, for me, we look at Melbourne Storm and Penrith Panthers as matchups that are tough matchups. And look, in a generalized sense, they probably are. But we're looking at a guy with a minus 50 break even. He's got 100 and a hat trick in his rolling average. So that 100 will stay in his rolling average for at least a couple of weeks here. So for me, like, I think regardless of where he tops out at 500K, I still think we grab him now. He's 388K, which means you still got another 120 to 150K to make as a bare minimum, I think. Penrith and Melbourne haven't exactly been the stalwarts of defense this year either. Like they've shown their cracks, especially Melbourne. So, and Armstrong has shown that he can cut it with the best of them. Like he's been fantastic. He's been energetic. He's been the perfect Ponga replacement. He has had a relatively easy run up until now, and the Knights obviously missing Kalen Ponga hurt, but yeah, I still think there's some points to be scored against Melbourne and Penrith. So I don't know whether I would necessarily look at these as, he's going to score 30. I reckon he's probably safer to get you about a 40 or a 50 as a floor. He did get 25 against New Zealand, but that was in the pissing down wet. So I'm not looking too much into that. I can probably forgive him for that match. But 84, 68 and 106. And I know he scored some tries in these as well, but only one try in the 68 and the 84. So there's enough base there for me. And the tackle breaks are fantastic as well. He's had 36 tackle breaks over 2 games. So, the base is there, which you should get from a fullback anyway. So, yeah, I think he's a must. I'm going to go ahead, probably long answer to this question, Pitbull, but I think David Armstrong is a must this week. I think he's a guy that you're going to want to get on. Even Blaze Talangi across to Armstrong to keep that cash gen going. I don't actually hate that either. So, yeah, if you don't have Armstrong in your team, this is probably the last week I think you can get him, especially because you want to take advantage of this matchup this week. We've got I'm a Loser asking, who do we sell Nico Hynes to? I might have maybe hinted towards the direction I was thinking, but I would say if you need a player this week and you're short and he is the only guy you can get out of your team, I think you probably just got to go to Sam Walker. I don't know how confident I feel about Mitchell Moses after just spending so much time out of the game. So for me, I'm probably going, if Hynes to Walker this week, not a huge fan of it though. He just needs to do a lot to score points, which is why I've personally faded Sam Walker. Hurt me last week, but the week before seemed like a good move. And he's got the bye in round 14. Or you can get Jerome Hughes next week, who I think from memory, he plays 16. So he's going to play the next 5 games for you. I'm just going to quickly if we bring up their draw on the screen, I can do that right now. And we will look at the Melbourne Storm's draw. So we can see Melbourne 4th from the top there. They've got the bye this week, which is why we obviously not going to go then. Newcastle haven't been the hard matchup we thought they would be. New Zealand away, definitely not the tough matchup. And then you look at the Storm's draw from 16 through to 18. They've got the Dolphins away. They've got the Raiders at home, and then they've got the Tigers away into the bye. So, this is a really quite a nice run for Jerome Hughes and for Storm in general. So for me, I'm thinking Jerome Hughes to Nico Hynes, Nico Hynes to Jerome Hughes in round 14 could be a very, very popular move, along with Gus to David Fafita for those that hold either Nico or Crichton. So that's probably the direction I'm going with that one. Hynes to Hughes seems to be the go. And then look, if Moses comes out next week and he looks great, we've got that option. But I'm still a bit hesitant because I think Moses gets picked in Origin 2 for New South Wales. Another one from I'm a Loser, Karaz or Manu. Was initially set on Karaz, but now that he's at centre, is it better to spend a little more on Manu? Yeah, it is. I'm a Karaz owner, by the way, and Karaz's price, I think he's near 800, if not 800K now. On the wing, he is fantastic. He's electric. His base is elite on the wing. At centre, I just don't love it. There's just less attacking upside. He might make more tackles, but he won't get the run meters out of his own half on kick returns. There's not much to love at centre for Karaz. Great player in his own right, and he won't tank. He won't be terrible, but he definitely won't be the price tag that you pay for this week. So I think, getting Joey Manu. We look at the Roosters draw as well. We'll bring that back up very quickly for you if you're watching on YouTube. We look at the Roosters draw at the bottom there. You got North Queensland at home, decimated by Origin, absolutely destroyed with 6 players out. Then they've got the bye, so just make sure you're planning. If you've got a lot of Raiders, Dolphins, and Roosters in your team next week, you've got to think twice about getting Teddy, Manu, and having Dom Young, Sam Walker, Terrell May, Crichton, all these guys, and then add the rest. Be very careful. But Cowboys this week into the bye. Then look at that next 4 weeks. Para away, Bulldogs away. Bulldogs, at home, Tigers at home, Dragons at home. So they've got a nice little 3-stint home game run there into their bye in round 19. So, you can load up on the Roosters so long as you're sorted for next week. And I think you're in a very, very nice spot moving forward. So my pick is definitely going to be Joey Manu over Karaz at this point. Who am I picking, Moses or Hughes? Aussie Ray asked that one. Maybe I've explained that already. I'm going with Jerome Hughes. I'm waiting a week to make that move. The reason I'm waiting a week is purely because I got burnt by doing this last year. I went early on Jacob Kiraz last year. I think that was the Bulldogs' first major buy, and I thought, I'm just going to get ahead of the game and get Kiraz. He's super cheap. I think he was down to 400K or something at that point. I bought him. He did his elbow. I think he dislocated his elbow at training or something. And then, didn't play for about 2-3 weeks, and I had to trade him out. I actually traded him in and out without him even taking the field for me. So 2 completely wasted trades with no benefit. So training injuries happen. It's unfortunate, but they do happen quite regularly. So yeah, I'd wait if I possibly could, unless I desperately needed that Nico Hynes cash. And then I'd probably employ you to look at Walker maybe and just get a body on the field this week. So yeah, that's probably the way I'd go. But I don't feel good enough about Moses not seeing him play football for 8 to 10 weeks with that foot injury. It's a watch. It's a watch and wait for me. Pitbull, which round 13 gun centre wing would you buy? Kiraz, Manu, or a Zarko? I think if I had to rate these guys in terms of buys, I would go Manu, a Zarko, and then Kiraz last. I've already talked about the reasons why I like Manu the most. The Roosters draw is fantastic. But Azarko, not a bad shout either. If we quickly look at Azarko, his price has definitely come down in previous weeks. If we were talking about Azarko at 850K, I'd be like, probably don't want to pay that much. I'd rather pay less to get Manu. But he's down to 742. He's got 103 break even, which he very much could cover this week. He plays Canberra. Not a bad matchup. Obviously covers all 3 major buys, 13, 16, and 19, which is the benefit of having the Dolphins in your team, except just missing that round 14 tricky mini buy. You need to make sure that you don't have too many Roosters and Raiders in your team and too many other Finns players. But I mean, he's coming off an 84 last week, kicking goals. The Dolphins score mass points. He's got a 74 average on the season. And he did cool off a little bit, but it seems like his price is going to bottom out around that kind of 725 mark. Which I think he's probably valued at, to be fair. So yeah, Jermaine Asako, don't mind it. I still prefer Manu, but I prefer him less now that he's not playing fullback and now Teddy's at fullback. So yeah, that's the order of 1 Manu, 2 Asako, 3 Kiraz. Shorty asking, what do we do with Talangi again? We keep having this conversation. I think we had this one a couple of weeks ago when it looked like Talangi was, or maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago before Gutherson got injured, and it was, Talangi kind of bottomed out in price. I ended up trading him. Kind of regret that, but I traded him to Armstrong so I can deal with it. What do we do with him now? I think this week is just a wait and see. Just hold off and let's just see what happens next week. Gutho might be a late admission. We don't know whether he's 100% ready to go. There's every chance maybe he drops out. Maybe there's a chance Mitchell Moses isn't 100% ready yet and he drops out real late. And then we see a Gutherson switch to 5'8". Talangi comes in and starts at fullback. And we see someone come off the extended into 14. So maybe just wait and see with Talangi as late as we can. I think, do the Eels play the second game of the week? Let me quickly just check. No, they don't. They play the first game. So yeah, perfect. We can wait and see and have a look at what happens tomorrow night, Thursday night, and make a call before that first game to see whether there's any late changes. But for me, I think he's a hold this week because he's got a negative 22 break even. I don't know whether we need to rush him out right now. He can step on the field and make you 20K. So not the end of the world. But in saying that, yeah, I mean, if you need the number and you've got 12 or something and you're relying on Talangi to be your 13th, maybe he is a trade to if you don't have Armstrong, Talangi to Armstrong, I like. There's a couple of other options there as well, or if you can upgrade to a Mulatalo or somebody of that nature, I'd probably prefer that. But if you can hold on and reassess next week because you never know what can happen. Brent, do I trade? So Brent's back, loves his questions. He's got 5 for us. Do I trade Angus, Crichton, or Lomax for someone playing this week and next week? Leaning towards Angus Crichton to Jack de Belin. He's one that kind of flies under the radar. We talked about him and Josh talked about him in depth last night on the pod. Jack de Belin's a sneaky kind of smoky at the moment, isn't he? Like he's been fantastic. His scores even off the bench have been, 60 plus. He does play the round 19 major buy. He plays round 13. So this is the week to get him if you want him. His price is low 600s as well. And he's a guy that you can keep in your front row forward. He has the dual flexibility, which is huge. You know what you're going to get with him. He's pretty much the go-to guy, whether it's lock or prop. He will play big minutes as well. He does have a big motor. So regardless of what we think of Jack de Belin, I think from a Supercoach perspective and from an output perspective, I think he's a really good trade. We did call him a buy this week. So Gus to JDB, I like that. And the next question from Brent was, if I did have to get a front row forward or a 2RF, and I had approximately 650K, the buys aren't important, who would I pick? And I'd probably end up still picking Jack de Belin. It's an awkward price, isn't it? 650K. Like if I filter front row, second row right now, and we have a look at the top scorers at the moment, Eli Katoa leads the way. Isaiah Yeo, Jeremiah Nanai, Adam Fanua-Blake, Patrick Carrigan, David Fafita, Gus Crichton, Jermaine Hopgood, Hudson Young. The top 9 are playing Origin. Or stood down at the moment, Adam Fanua-Blake. So, or Eli Katoa, he's not playing this week. Eli Katoa is a great buy next week if you don't have him. But would I get him this week? No. And he's 750. I start scrolling down the list. Even Ola Kawatu and Cam McInnes are also, too expensive in terms of that budget, and also playing Origin. So for me, you have to start scrolling down to Jack de Belin, or you're looking at another guy that I'll be looking at next week at 580K is Keon Koloamatangi. So we'll probably talk about him a little bit more on the pod on Tuesday. So stay tuned for that one. But Keon, I'm very keen on. Didn't actually intend that, but that kind of played out quite well. Brent's question, his next one is, I held Fuller for this round. However, I think Teddy is a must own. Do you think Fuller to Teddy is a good trade? Means I have Edwards and Teddy and likely hold for the season. And yes, I do. I think Fuller to Teddy is a great trade. We're looking at Teddy as one of those guys where you kind of need to get him this week to take advantage of that Cowboys matchup. He's the most popular traded in player for a reason. He is an automatic captain this week as well. I think he will be the most captained by a fair margin. And there's this thing. If you don't know what the sunk cost fallacy is, go and Google it. I'll probably butcher it a little bit, but basically it's kind of like an example is being, if you're not in love with your partner anymore or whatever, and you want to move on, but the reason you're staying with your partner is because you've been with them forever. Your high school sweethearts or whatever, but things aren't working anymore. The sunk cost fallacy kind of centers around continuing to do something, even though the benefit doesn't come to you anymore. Are we holding Fuller purely because we said we would 5 weeks ago? Purely because you've held him through 2 DNPs and you held him for this round specifically? Are we just holding Fuller just because we said we would? For me, I think a lot of people probably will just hold Fuller and be stubborn about that. But I think the right move is to pivot to Teddy. So that's the way I'd be going with that. I wouldn't try not to think too much about the fact you've held Fuller up until this point just for this round. It's still the right play. And the last one from Brent, when planning the buys, especially the minis, would you assume that everyone playing Origin backs up if they have a Sunday game? If not, how would you plan who's going to back up? And look, I don't have an exact answer for this. The way I look at it, your Friday games are your biggest backup risk. They're less than 48 hours after one of the most intense games of NRL that you'll play. So there's every chance for me. I'm looking at guys that are going to be doing big run meters, big kits, lots of tackles. Your middles, I think your middle forwards are guys that are going to get rested, especially your big minute guys, like 50-plus minute guys, like your Isaiah Yeos and that get through a lot of work in the middle. If you're playing less than 40 minutes, I think you're probably a chance of backing up. So I'm also looking at the game and going, all right, who played big minutes? Who ran 300-plus meters, like your Teddies and like Dylan Edwards, sure. If Dylan Edwards had games backing up on a Friday, I'd be very concerned he doesn't play. But the benefit for Dylan, and I think this is one of the questions coming up later, the benefit for Dylan Edwards is that Penrith plays Sunday backing up from Origin for round 14, 17, and 20. So there is every chance with that extended period of rest. He's got 4 days off between Origin and the Sunday afternoon game. I think it's either 2 or 4 p.m. on a Sunday. I feel pretty good about Dylan Edwards backing up at least 2 out of those 3 weeks. So, that's probably what I look at. Just high workload through Origin. Lots of work done up the middle. Your edge forwards aren't necessarily the guys that I see getting rested too often. I find it's your middle forwards, or it's your fullbacks or your wingers that are getting a bit of a breather if they got through a lot of work. But again, we see Brian To'o continue to do his thing every year, and he just gets rested maybe one of those games out of 3. And he's one of the biggest meter eaters in the competition. So, yeah, it's hard to. There's no exact science. There's no exact answer. But for me, I'm pretty much writing off players on Friday that have big workloads. Saturday is about a 50-50. Sunday, I'll probably feel 80-20 confident that my player is going to back up on a Sunday. Hopefully that answers your question. Troz, I jumped on Dom Young when he bottomed out. So I've made 200K. Do I trade him to Teddy now at the same price? I also have Manu. And the Manu and Teddy balance feels a little bit better than the Manu and Young balance. Look, if Dom Young is your only way to get to Teddy, I don't know whether I would. I feel like Dom Young is going to feast in this next probably 5 to 6 week period through the Origin period. There's no risk of him being picked for Origin either. And I don't think Teddy will get picked either. I think they've gone in a different direction. They'll go with Dylan Edwards, and that's fine. But there's absolutely no risk because Dom Young's a pommy that he'll get picked. So he's going to be completely available. Amazing draw. I just feel like maybe the benefit of the trade doesn't necessarily outweigh the trade itself. Like, how many extra points are you going to get going from Dom Young to Teddy per week? I still think Dom Young probably competes with Teddy in terms of points. I think they're both great options. And if you can have all three, I'd try and find a way to make that trade elsewhere and just cop next week. Because, I mean, if you had Young, Manu, and Teddy over the next 5 weeks, I tell you what, people are going to be shit scared when they come against your team in head-to-head. I reckon you're going to end up in a better position if you can find a way to get all three and manage in round 14, as opposed to having to trade Young out to Teddy. Mr. Callio, can I wait on Ronnie Mulatalo 100 break even, or would you do Iro to him, or is Kale Iro a keeper? I initially thought that Kale Iro could be a very serviceable centre wing 6, which I still kind of think he could be. But for me, the attacking upside is in Ronnie Mulatalo. So like I feel like for the most part, Iro's safe. Ronnie's where your upside is. And I've always been an upside player in Supercoach, and I think a lot of people are. Can I wait on Ronnie? Yeah, of course you can. But this week against the Parramatta Eels, who have conceded 35 tries to wingers and centres this year in 12 games, is just a wild stat. There's insanity. So I want a piece of that. I'm not getting Sione Katoa, and obviously Jesse Ramian is in and around that Blues squad. I think Ronnie Mulatalo is a guy that it has probably bottomed out now. I think there's every chance that he covers his break even this week, and it kind of feels like that Ruben Garrick matchup when he went and got 140 when his break even was 140. I have a feeling that Ronnie is going to be going triple figures this week, and I've got the VC on him. So who would I be to go against my own trade? I think Ronnie's a buy-in. I don't know whether you'd want to wait at his price, especially. Now, Luro, second last one. Thoughts on going into this round with 12 players? Would rather just scrape through and set my team up rather than just chase guys that I don't want long term. And look, this is a perfectly viable option. I've seen in previous years since they brought in this best 13 rule, I've seen that teams with 11 or 12, if they get their captaincy right, and you get a free loop, mind you, if you get your VC or your C right, you can often score way better than a team that might have 14 or 15. Because for the most part, the guys that have 14, 15, 16 active players probably have your Sam Hughes, your Liam Henrys, your Joey Lussicks, your plotters on the bench, the guys that are going to get you 20 or 15 or 30 or whatever, that aren't even going to be in your best 13 scorers. So if you've got 12 solid plays and you don't like any trades this week, save them, because the people that have trades left at the back end of the season are going to be the ones laughing, and they're going to be laughing all the way to the bank. And I think, I think the safe play is to not get a player in just because of the major buy. If they're not in your plans moving forward, don't get them in. Lastly, Melmo, I know your boy said on the pod to hold Edwards because he's going to miss one more game, but does the chance of him getting arrested make him more of a sell? And I think I answered this one previously. Dylan Edwards, I think he backs up in 2 out of the 3 as a minimum. There is every chance he could back up from all 3, depending on how the series goes. I know that fullback in general and Queensland's long kicking game, DCE is going to pepper Edwards all game. So Edwards is going to run 300 plus meters in this game. I can guarantee it. If there was a market for that, it'd be paying $1.10. And I think regardless of Edwards getting through a lot of work, I think we'll see him back up more often than not. The best part about this is it doesn't, he does, like Melmo mentioned in the question as well, he does only miss one more game purely based on major buys. So we would have had him this week. Unfortunately, now we don't. But I don't think it's enough to trade him out. I think he's a guy that you're going to want for the run home. Even though his scores will drop when Cleary comes back into this team, he will lose the goal kicking. I still think he is a fantastic option. So, I mean, you're going to want to hold him at least while Cleary's out. And I think Cleary's going to be missing for another at least 5 to 6 weeks. He will be missing Origin completely, obviously. So I think Dylan Edwards probably plays 4 games through that period. What have we got? 14, 15, 17, 18, and 20 if he backs up for all of them. Let's say he misses one. In those 4 games, there's every chance he scores 100 plus or averages 100 plus over that period. So especially without Cleary. And then, look, you can have a look at the run home and go, do I really want him for the run home? With Cleary in the team, his average has dropped. You can make a decision on who you want for the run home then at fullback, but I think Edwards is a hold through the Origin period. And guys, that brings us to the end of the unlimited Q&A. Hopefully I've done you guys some justice and given you some different points of view on who you should hold, who you should trade, who you should sell this week, and covered all of your questions. Guys, if you want your questions answered, of course, on the podcast, you can get them done by being an Insight Unlimited member. $20, jump in the Discord. All the information is there, and we'd love to have you on board. Or if you want to support the show, we would love that too. Otherwise, guys, that'll do us for this week. Obviously, we'll be back on Sunday to wrap up the week. Hopefully, plenty of green arrows across the league for all of you viewers, and we appreciate your support. Obviously, Insight Fantasy Sports in general would be nothing without everybody watching every single week. So, thank you for all the support. Whether you listen to us on audio, whether it's Spotify or Apple or Google or wherever you get your podcasts, and if you're watching us on YouTube, thanks for watching, guys. We will see you on Sunday night. Good luck this week. Have a good one.